Hello everybody, welcome back to another command tutorial. Today I'll just be elaborating more on my mob dungeon world. So what you're first going to want to start off with is this contraption, which if you watch the first tutorial, you know what it does. It just opens the door when there is mobs and it closes the door when there isn't. In case you haven't watched it, let me just walk you through it. This will just execute at e fame equals monster particle mob flame above it. So when it detects a mob, it will put a particle there, but when it doesn't, it won't put a particle there. And when it does put a particle there, there's a redstone comparator detecting that, which pushes this piston, and it activates this one. These ones actually aren't activated because they're impulse ones, so they only get activated once. So they're not activated right now. But once it gets pushed into this one, this will clone this over to the actual door of the mob dungeon. And when there's no mobs, it will go back here and it will close the door of the mob dungeon, or it will open it actually, cloning this part. And it'll also place a wooden button, which is right here. And it is also where the door is, as you can see. You know, when I summon a zombie, it's there, but when it's gone, it's not there. And I mean, the wave button. What is the wave button, you may ask? Well, let's elaborate more on it. What it does is basically it starts the wave. And you probably saw that, but it removed the button after I pressed it, and now it's there after the zombie's back. That's why I needed the command block back at the other place to place the wooden button there when it didn't detect any mobs. Also, the wooden button separates into 3 different paths. The first one, it will just add 1 wave to the scoreboard. The second one will just set this block over here to air, which will remove the button obviously. And the last path, the waves. Before we do waves, I need you to do one thing first. I want you to do scoreboard, objectives, add, and then whatever you want the name of, what's gonna be on your scoreboard to be. And then dummy, and then whatever you want the name to be again. So, since I named it wave, I'm just gonna do wave dummy wave. And then, after you're done doing that, you do scoreboard, objectives, set display, sidebar. This will just put it on the sidebar to the right, as you can, see on my screen. And now back to the third path of the button. When you press the button, it will detect which wave it's on. So you can see scoreboard players test wave 1 that will just detect if the wave is at 1. As you can see, it's at 1, but since it actually detects this one first, it'll +1 and then it will do this wave. So if it's at 1, then it will summon a zombie over there in the arena, and it will ignore all of the other ones. But if I press the button again and it goes to wave 2, then it will detect this one, which is wave 2. And these ones, just summons 3 zombies in 3 different places. And that will go on and on and on. Alright, next up we have shops. Now, if you actually do want to effectively make a shop, I recommend watching my shops tutorial or the previous video I did about my mob dungeon map. Not the gameplay one, the tutorial one, obviously. And what it will do is it will detect if the person pressing the button to buy the item has 3 rotten flesh in their inventory, which is spelled out by this command. And if it does, it will give them a wooden axe. The second command right here will detect also if it has 3 rotten flesh in their inventory, but this time it will clear 3 rotten flesh too. So as you can see, when I press the button here for wood axe, it doesn't give me a wood axe. But if I get 3 rotten flesh in my inventory, and I press it, gives me a wood axe, and it removes the rotten flesh. Now you can obviously do this with various different things. I mean, you can see that a sword costs 5 bones instead of flesh. Alright, and I also use another type of shop in my world. It's this custom crafting thing. It was showcased in my shop tutorial, so yeah. But before I show you that, I'll show you how to make certain areas unlock after a certain wave. So you can see on the sidebar, it's wave 1. But if I add 4 waves, and it's wave 5, this actually opens up. And I can have access to this. So the way you're going to want to do this is you just want to do scoreboard players test wave 5, and then you don't put a 5 like you do on the other waves up there, because this will just signify that it's 5 and up. The other ones will just signify if it's only 5. And if it is 5 and up, you'll activate this, which will just clone this stuff. Alright, on to custom crafting. So, you want to learn how to custom craft. Well, it's actually not that hard. It is only 2 commands, believe it or not. And if you want a more thorough explanation, I recommend my shops video again. So basically, test for blocks, and then the block above twice. This will just obviously detect the block above, and then you want to put the coordinates of where you want the custom crafting table to be. In my case, it was up there into that room that you just saw. And if it detects that these 2 blocks are the same, it will go into this conditional chain block. And when it detects that, it will clone this part onto the custom crafting table, which is the output. So if the player puts in 3 rotten flesh in that specific order, then they will get a cooked beef in the center. And it's the same for other things, like the copper ingot turns into copper sword, if you put it in that specific order. Next up, this is a short part of the map. There's only 1 command, in fact. This is the spawn chest right here. You want to do clone this block right here, and then to this block. This will just always clone this to here, so I can take that out, but it still respawns. I put a tick and delay as 15 seconds so you can actually grab it. You saw in my other video, if you've seen that, what happens if you put it as 0 delay and ticks. It glitches out a lot. There's also custom mobs. I covered these in my replace item tutorial and my custom mobs tutorial. But what they'll do is they'll just make mobs that are a certain name spawn with certain stuff. Like the fighter zombie spawns with a wooden sword. And if I take the bone zombie, it spawns with a bone on its head, a bone in his arm, and resistance, as you can see here. It's pretty simple. All you want to do is replace item entity at E, name equals bone zombie, in whatever slot you want. If you want it to like be holding something, I don't recommend, it's just how it is. It's slot that weapon, that main hand, 0, and then however many bones you want him to hold. If you want him to like drop something but you don't want him to be seen holding it, you can put slot.armor.head, which, yeah, shown here. You can actually place items on the head, so like bone 10, so he has a rare chance of dropping 10 bones, boss 1. You can't put items on his head when he has them, sadly, but, or you can't put like helmets on his head, but still, it's a cool way of getting custom mob drops. As you can see, you just dropped 10 bones. Alright, next up we have classes. This is actually an optional thing, but I decided to add it to spices up the map. As you can see, there is the archer kit here. You start with a bow and 16 arrows, and this will just clear your inventory so you can't have multiple kits at the same time. It'll give you a bow, it'll give you 16 arrows, and it'll give you 5 to cook beef. And for the other ones, it gives what it says it gives, except it also gives 5 cooked beef. And I mean, there's also one thing after that. Or actually 2 things. Basically, press this to get kits, because you saw, this is the first thing is clear, and then the others are conditional. So it will only activate the other commands if it clears your inventory. But if you have nothing in your inventory, it can't clear it, so it doesn't work. And that is why I added this button. So, I mean, if you spawn in, you have nothing in your inventory, but if you press that, you do have something. And I also added just stuff that kills the entities in a couple of blocks radius, so they can't drop the stuff on the ground and then get the kit again. You're just gonna do this across the map. You can, if you put your spawn room far away from the actual map, it's pretty easy to just make a radius command in a big area. But I had to make multiple radius commands that kill all the items that are like this, because it was right next to my mob thing, and I didn't want them to kill all the mob drops. Alright, we're nearly done with the tutorial. The last thing I'll cover is how to effectively make good maps. So what you're gonna want is obviously a good command room, or a good spawn room, and then an actual map. Something like this, a big open area that you can spawn a lot of mobs in, and that players can see where all the mobs are and go and kill them. But it's not fun if it's just a straight terrain. You gotta add obstacles, stuff like, this river, or like maybe a rock if you're doing an outdoorsy map. And I also added this plank here. This will just add some depth and some more like stuff to spice up the gameplay a little. And that'll pretty much cover everything in my mob arena. If you have some questions, leave it in the comment section. I'll be sure to try to answer them to the best of my ability. But, bye.